You can get a helping hand.
This is the classic post-it notes on the wall exercise. I live with post-it notes on the wall. The way I'm using post-it notes is a little different than the way she is. Right now, she's gone through her research and organized by user interviews, surveys, and stakeholder comments, the observations that she has seen or picked up on from these three different data points. Now, what's interesting is not necessarily what happens here. There's really two waves to this. Wave one is just documenting the highlights and getting them onto a board. Wave two is where we begin to bucket these into themes. And it's not really themes, it's more of topics. So I'm gonna add a couple of things here because I really want to. So these are really observations, and I'll make this 100 just so we can see it. So these are observations. These are just things that Chelsea has noted through her study. These are topics. Okay, so topics are very high level. It might be experience, it might be technology, and then out of topics there will be themes, and these are particular stories. So really what I'm looking to do here, and one of the reasons I love to do this in something like Figma, is I don't get to, when I do this on a board, I don't really get to follow the train of how we get to the theme. Like, I have to recreate the board to go back, and here I can just make a copy. All right, I'll give you an idea of what I mean. So I'm going to copy this over right now. I don't know what this is going to be. All right, we haven't assigned a topic yet, but I'm going to look at this first one. It says there are multiple programs used for distance learning. So I'm going to copy that over. That's where I'm going to start. There are multiple programs used for distance learning, and I'm going to say that this is technology. That's a technological concern. No thorough training on distance learning programs. Okay, so that could be both training and technology. So I could see this being literally both, and I think it's okay to have a sticky go in two places. All right, because it not go. Okay, so this is internet connectivity and access issues. Okay, so this one is not training, because it might be technology, and I'm going to put it under technology because it's connectivity. It also could be, what else could it be here? It could be access. I'm going to hold off on that third one yet. You don't have to create a new topic each time you go through. Lack of incentive to do assignments, attend meetings. So this feels like structure. So we've got technology, training, structure. All right, let's keep going. Poor system for school to provided lunch pickup. Okay, so this is, again, this is a structural thing that has nothing to do with technology or training, but there's a lack of structure. Okay, and in some ways you could say the same thing for this, but again, we're basically just working through. So here we go. Poor communication between school officials and teachers, students, parents. Okay, so this is structure. It just does not sound like there's enough structure. Could also be communication. keep going. Some children never showed up to distance learning program. Now that's an interesting issue. So that's an issue of structure. It could also be an issue of technology. We don't know that though. So we got technology, training, structure right now. I could, and there are certain things that I'm wanting to say, like commitment and whatnot. That might be a theme. That might be something that comes over to the theme territory. And keep in mind, kids miss their friends, teachers miss their students. Okay, so this is not technology. This is not training. It could be structure. It sounds like community. So I'm going to put a community grouping over here. And now what we've done is we've taken one set of observations from a particular type of study. So this is user interviews, and we've split them into 4 different topics. All right. Now I probably just need to keep moving themes over because we haven't even gotten into these issues yet. So let's go ahead and look at these. Most teachers have internet access and a computer for remote learning. Okay. So well, where did it go? Oh, it just stayed there. So I'm going to say this is technology. Now this isn't. Now keep in mind, I'm not making any decision on whether it's a positive or negative item to be in the topic. It just fits into that topic. Okay. Most teachers say remote learning has impacted their teaching style. This could be training. It could also be structure. And in some ways, I think it could also be community. Because, part of that is, why is it impacted your style? Well, the kid's not in front of me. Concern for children who depend on school for safety, food, and structure. That's definitely community. Right? So, it's like the things, and literally it says structure in it. So part of this is like how the community is organized. The other part is just like straight up the community, like the people, and then how people operate inside the system. So I do think those are 2 different things, but that doesn't have anything to do with training or technology. All right. A lot of people depend on school provided lunch. This goes over to, I'm gonna say structure. This is like, this is something the school provides. Because it's not there, it causes an issue. It's not about the people at that point. It's literally the food. Lack of social interaction between teachers and children and teachers. All right. So again, we get back over to community. So what's interesting is how this community tab over here, or topic, has kind of really picked up speed. So issues with internet connectivity for some low-income students. So internet connectivity, that's going to be this. It's going to be under technology, but it's also going to be under structure. And you can see that like structure is really beginning to like run away, to the point that I really want to make sure I'm able to see everything. So I'm going to bring these bottom 4 up. So they're just a little easier to follow. And again, this is one of the things that I really love about Figma, the ability to just kind of move things around as I need, make copies of things as I need. Prior training for remote learning was optional and limited to videos. Okay, So this is clearly training, right? Is it structure? It's not community. I don't think it's technology. Could be though. District is concerned about engagement drop off, kids dropping out. That definitely sounds like community. Could be structure as well. Communication with community for this upcoming school year. That's okay. So I'm going to add this up here. Communities. When community, when certain words are in the theme, that probably is a good sign. Poor meal pickup plan. This is interesting. I'm beginning to see. So like this could be structure, but it also could be. I keep seeing food brought up, and it's nutrition. Because the food thing keeps coming. Poor system for school provided lunch. Children who like there's a dependency here. A lot of people depend on, it's because this lunch thing keeps coming up over and over and over again that I've now wanted to add this nutrition. But it has nothing to do with like kids dropping out. That could be both structural and. All right. So this is what we've got, just at a very high level. All right. So we've got technology, we've got training, we've got structure, which is really deep and it kind of moves in some different directions. Community, and then nutrition. The idea from this point forward would be to look at these and find what are the common themes, and there should be at least one theme that we're picking up from each of the topics. I have not tried to define those as of yet, and really this is where you come through and you'll discard some of these, but others will remain, and in those that remain, you may find multiple themes just inside of structure. The one thing I will say is that typically speaking, we have a deeper set of observations. Okay, so we've gone a long way to make a sizable presentation, and a lot of that is coming because some of these are up here twice. Okay, some of them may even be up here 3 times. You've got 5. I've got 5 survey observations, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards. So I've at least used each of those twice. The same thing could be said for stakeholder comments. Those are up there 9. There's 5 here. Shockingly, there's 8 of these, and there are, only 10. So the user interviews were used least, an average of 1.25 times over, where the other 2 were duplicated up. I really believe that there's probably more in the user interviews that just because you can't talk to 3 groups of people and not have more observations come out of the user interviews. One worry that I always have when I'm dealing with user interviews is, am I pre-editing myself to say, oh, these things are kind of alike? I don't want to pre-edit too much, especially when I'm just jotting down the observations. I think generally speaking, that's how we end up with fewer, not more. So I'd be on the lookout for that. The other thing that I would encourage is, you may be watching this and thinking to yourself, well, Chris, this seems like a a pretty limited set of data, and in some ways it is. Okay, competitive analysis is a really powerful way to dive in and add a lot of robust data to this, to look at your competition, because this is such a social issue. I didn't want to encourage looking around for pre-existing solutions in this particular case, but just know that analysis of competitors, if we were working on like an app, there would be a channel here for competitive analysis, which is not here right now, and that would produce a much more robust board. But that said, we were able to get 5 topics out of this. From these topics, we would then create themes, and you're probably going to come up with 4 or 5 themes. I could come up with a theme for each of these topics right now. I'm certain that technology has a theme. I'm certain that training has a theme. Structure may have a couple of themes. Okay, communities got a theme. Nutrition, the food thing is clearly a theme. You kept hearing it over and over again. The question is, which of those is going to produce something that is actionable? And that's really the next piece of this puzzle, is what's going to produce the actionable items that you will then begin building out possible solutions for. Who does this impact? Much of the once you determine the themes, you begin to talk about who am I building this for? What are my personas? Prior to this stage, it would be, I don't really think it's a good idea to build personas, because I haven't identified what the problems are, and because I haven't identified what the problems are, I haven't identified who I'm solving problems for. Okay, at this point we're really doing information gathering, and the affinity diagram, the affinity mapping, and I do use those words interchangeably. I'll be the first to admit, but I really think it applies. It is a diagram. You're also mapping out a possible solution. When you get in here and you've determined what the problem is, then you can say, oh, I now know what the problem is, and I know who is impacted by that problem. And then you can begin building your persona. And once you begin building your persona, you get a better idea. You get a better idea of who is impacted and by these issues that we've gone through and very deliberately identified from a detailed parsing of the observations. Remember, this is not just, oh, I remember I heard from my user interviews this one thing. It's like the thing that's great about this is it forces you to not allow yourself to focus in on the last thing that you did. The last thing that you did, in this case, was user interviews. It's very easy to disregard everything that came before that, and this is the whole the last thing you've done is that's what resonates most. It's a very common thing in the human psyche, is like how you finish. So this exercise, it really forces us to abandon that, and that's very important, because frankly, it's not just about the user. It's also about the business concerns or the stakeholder concerns. All right, and that's something that was at the tip of the spear at the very beginning. Without an exercise like this, we begin to forget about the business side of things, and as a UX professional, you're concerned with both equally, and that's a very difficult thing to square for a lot of people. So I just want to take a second to go through affinity diagramming here. This particular exercise is unique in that it is focused on the COVID era issue of how are we going back to school? What are the concerns? Obviously, some of the stuff would be, some of the stuff that is here would be like, well, clearly this would be easier if we just went back to school. Yeah, that's right. It's also going to be very hard to do that. There are lots of concerns with just picking up and going back to school, but you can see where this is a difficult problem. And I think that it allows us to be more empathetic with the people who are having to make these decisions when we look at the problem that they are trying to solve. And frankly, this is where design teams come in and play a big role, because we can come in and look at things objectively, without, frankly, the political biases that may be present on both sides of the aisle, both sides, and really look at the issues. Okay, you've done your work. You have your observations. You have your topics. Now, what are the themes? And Chelsea, I'm gonna leave that as a jumping off point for our discussion, which is later today. But I'm glad that everybody else could get to ride along with this particular breakdown.
Planning